The U family, this is what you want each and every week. This is your time. This is your place. Thursday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. This week in particular, we got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. Please join him right there for the best in Miami sports coverage. And this, of course, your Miami Hurricanes live coming your way tonight. Cam, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Hanging out. So I had a day off from the secret day job, like I was saying before we came on the air. So good. Got my, as you learned last week, the traditional Flanagan's Cup there since 1959, with just sweet tea today. Sorry, so no libation, but still, got to keep the pipes hydrated. But yeah, doing that and just hanging out, ready to talk some football. How about you?
Mine would be the less colorful and much more generic, great value water. That's almost.
Oh yeah, no, you got to
the final pint there. So when Cam goes on camera full, you know where I'll be headed.
Yeah, man, you got to get a new bottle before the show started. That's why I have my full cup ready and iced and everything. So yeah, I'm ready already.
Got to stay hydrated, especially when that voice has yet to come back. It's been like 3 to 4 weeks, and it's still not quite there. And there's a little cough still right there. Man, I thought I shook it for sure. And then today I'm like, man, still that last bit. Get out of there.
Yeah.
Winner, get out of here. All right, let's talk some Miami football. And as Cam let us know last week, spring practice it's basically here. We're talking about 9 days from right now. The boys will be on the field. And even though it's spring football, and I am a sucker for the spring games each and every year, Cam, this happens to me. I start to see the listings on ESPN or the SEC network or the Big Ten network. Oh, we're going to have a triple header of spring games. And I'm like, oh, man, I got to watch them. And then I watch about 4 plays and I remember, yeah, this isn't real football. I will force myself to watch some of this or DVR the Purdue spring game. But yeah, it's really not that exciting and it's not real football. But in regards to the importance of getting ready for the 2020 season, it's ultra important, of course. And for this program in particular, to get back to the place where it belongs and what the talent would dictate where it should be, of course, this spring practice is going to be crucial for this program. So to put it into that kind of context, what does this spring practice mean, not just in general, but maybe for this particular unit and roster and coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, this is a big spring, obviously. Miami had a bad season, another one. Manny Diaz's first full season as head coach. And, things got to get better, and it's going to start on the practice field. So you have a completely new offense that's coming in, thank God, because the offense that we saw last year, I mean, it hit the high notes every now and then, but I mean, you're also just missing the gimme throws, not blocking well for a lot of time, especially pass protection. There were things that went awry on offense. So getting a new system is perfectly fine for me. But you got to learn and install that system. And so on the podcast I used to host, there was an episode where Fred and I brought in Coach Ron Mackey, who has a YouTube page that you should look at for spread offense. And he told us that, you do your install in this kind of offense in 3 days. So you do, day 1, day 2, day 3, and then you just rotate that again. And you just basically just run it day 1, day 2, day 3, day 1, day 2, day 3. And then you give other options on defense and other scenarios. So you're still running the same things, but okay, maybe when you do it on install the first time through, you do it on air. The second time through, you do it against man. The third time through, you do it against cover 2. Third time, cover 3. Fourth time, you give zone blitzes. The fifth time, you change what you're going up against, but you're doing the same thing. So you're just repping that over and over again. And that's pretty much the entire offense. It's not too difficult because you want guys to play fast. And when you have the baseline set, then you build on the extravagancies, if you will. So your trick plays, the things, okay, where we have this as a base play, and then, the alteration or the side adjustment is this. So now, okay, we're going through this on the 6th rotation through, which would be in the fall, because I think you only get 15 days of practice in the spring. But then, yeah, so now in the fall, you start the install again, and then you get different options on what you're going up against. So you get more familiarity with running it. against any kind of a thing. So if you've ever played a sport, obviously, repetition is a key to success. I mean, if you've done anything, whether that's music, whether that's business, whether that's finance, whatever it is, the more that you do it, the better you should get at it. But specifically, if you remember back to a time where you played a sport, you person out there watching, listening, think of the time where you played a sport and you had that play that you couldn't get. And then you just ran it again and again. And you're on the bench and you're watching the other, whatever unit, the starters, second, third team, no matter, whatever sport it is, you ran it again and again and again. And then it clicked and then you knew it so you could run it. And then you kept running it in games and in practices. And then all of a sudden, you know it like the back of your hand, inside, outside. So if it's a right-handed play, everybody on the floor knows it, or in basketball, because I was a basketball player. So you had plays that ran right-handed. You could flip it and run it left-handed to the left side of the floor. And then, you want to cheat off of this and you want to go and do that. And then you know it so well because you've done it so many times. That's the key to this offense. And that's really where the things are going to come down to for this spring. Are there going to be players who individually progress physically, athletically, with their skill set on the field, their ability to play? Yes. Are you going to have guys on defense hopefully stepping up, finding new levels of performing excellence? Yes, obviously. But the defense can run itself almost. The defense is what it's been for the last 4 years. And if you look at the numbers, even this past year, they're very similar to what were there the previous 3 when Manny was the defensive coordinator before he became the head coach. And I know that people were jumping on Blake Baker, but it was more the personalities than the scheme. It was them thinking that they were entitled and some guys freelancing. And hey, everybody said and saw Quarterman and Pinckney. Love those guys. They were freelancing. But then when you freelance, then you open up other things where you need to be in your spot so that you're not leaving whoever else behind you or next to you out to dry. It was curtailing those things that was the key for the defense. It's not rebuilding from a schematic standpoint. All the guys who have been here, they know what we're running on defense. Special teams, you're going to continue to work on that because, Lewis Headley, you just want him to get better as a punter. You want whomever, Jose Borregales is now the transfer from FIU. You want him to be as good as he was at FIU or get better. If Camden Price is still around, have Camden Price get a little bit better. There's supposed to be a walk-on kid coming from Manatee High School in Bradenton. Axel Leprevo, I believe his name is. He's a left-footed kicker. Hey, you want to come in here and make some kicks? Great. It's going to be Jose Borregales during games, but you want that. But when it comes down to this spring, it's all about the offense. How are they developing? How are they fitting into the scheme? And how is that scheme permeating them through osmosis or whatever means necessary to get into their minds, brains, bones, and souls so that when it comes to the fall, and they're going to do this, of course, during the summer, they're going to have those player-led practices. They're going to continue those things. But when fall practice hits, those lights come on. We need that offense to be at least where they were at the end of this spring period. So developing this offense in this new scheme to get them to almost a baseline level heading into the fall, that is the singular key to this spring for me.
As soon as you hit on the term freelancing, I was taken back all the way to 7th grade football. So this is the first time I ever put pads on and ever played organized football. And I was a fast kid, not fast in the realm of the athletes that we talk about on a weekly basis from Miami and college football, but fast, like fastest kid in the school, of a school that was fairly good at sports. But I put pads on for the first time. And what do you think I did and I'm talking like early 80s football. So we're throwing like 4 passes a game. And so we're running the ball. And so they throw me a tailback. And my instinct is after I had run that 41 dive or that 42 dive and just had my brains beaten because we got no offensive line that can block, like we were winning games like 6-0. We had a defense. We couldn't throw. We couldn't do anything on offense. What do you think I'm doing? I'm running a sweep every time I get the ball, boom, jab step, and I'm trying to beat everybody to the corner.
Find the sidelining ride. That's what they teach you, yeah.
Twice, and the coach grabs me pretty much by the jersey or something and telling me, you run where the play is designed. You slam it up in there. I don't care what's there, what's not there. That's what came to mind when you said freelance was I was back in 7th grade football for a second.
Yeah.
So we got Buddy Woodward.
And, obviously you don't want guys to do that, but yeah.
We got Buddy Woodward here who says, Mark, love the content, but why can't we see a Canes helmet behind you? So if anybody was out there paying attention, we did not have the Canes helmet right there. And then I did the switch out to Truth Be Told while Cam was on his full shot there. All right, the same. No, this is not Buddy. This is a Dudek. Once again, Diaz and Canes have killed it again in the offseason, but I'm also wait and see how I think he's taking a turn from you. How they do once again with loads of talent, major changes, and a weak schedule. The recipe for success is here. Let's see it on the field.
No, I agree completely. It does need to be seen on the field. And yeah, you know, it would be a great thing to see that. And I was actually just arguing with some people on Twitter just a little bit this afternoon because there's a, like, you know, whatever, you know, a local Twitter account who put out a piece saying, you know, what do you project the record to be after 5 games? And you look at those 5 games, and I said, look, it has to be 5-0. And I know that I'm on record saying 7-5 and prove me wrong, but there's not an acceptable loss in those first 5, especially when you consider that Michigan State just changed their head coach like yesterday, you know, and like when D'Antonio was there, you could maybe talk yourself into it as being not necessarily acceptable, but understandable, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Sure. But like, no, man, like, no, there's no loss in the first 5 that's acceptable. It's just not. And like somebody who used to write for State of the U, we go back and forth sometimes on Twitter. He said, you know, it has to be 5-0 or Manny has to get fired. I'm not there with it, but I'm not far away from that. I'm not, I mean, and people are saying, 3-2. 3-2 in those first 5, you got to go. Like, no, wait. 3-2 in the first 5 this year? Again, yeah, and I know people are going to say the same thing. I'm like, no, Miami has had and continues to have the talent, but the production's not been there, and that has to change. But, I mean, yeah, it's a thing where we have to see it on the field this year, you know, and, yeah, you know, I mean, I want to be more – I wish I felt better about it because I wish that this program had given me reason to be more enthusiastic and feel more secure that they were going to perform to the level that we're saying. But I mean, those first 5 got to be 5-0. They just do.
For me, I don't pull the plug on any coach unless there are just functional cultural things wrong with the program that are obvious. I don't pull the plug on a coach, especially in his second season after 5 games. I wait until I've got the entirety of the schedule and the season's performance to evaluate. Even at 3-2 with a soft first 5 games, I got to see the entire thing play out if I'm running the show and if I'm in charge of the hiring and firing of the coach.
I'll put it to you like this. 3-2 means you've lost to 2 of UAB, Temple, Michigan State, and Pittsburgh in the first 5. Like, I hear you, but like, and okay. I mean, and this is the thing that I was talking about. I don't know if I said it on here or I said it on Twitter or somewhere else. I don't remember, but I understand where Alabama fans are coming from. They are insane, but they are focused on perfection and nothing less. And I get it. It's like, come on, like you're going to lose a game every now and then. Like LSU was better than you. Johnny Manziel was a singular talent. Cam Newton, Nick Marshall was a fluke game. They aren't trying to hear that. I'm not even there with it. I'm just saying it needs to be not 3-2, but like I get where the Alabama people are coming from. And it's almost to a point where it's just like, even though it is crazy, it's not outwardly rational, but it's like it is to the root of things rational. Like wins are the only thing that matter. And 3-2 in the first 5, this year I can't, especially coming off the year that we just had. I can't do it.
And you started to set the record straight on what we should expect out of Michigan State and who Michigan State is right now. So we need to get our minds out of 2015. Mark D'Antonio did an exceptional job building a program that was a top 10 program in the country for about 6 seasons. This Michigan State program and this Michigan State team is not that same program and team. They have played 500 football since 2016. They're coming off back-to-back 7-6 seasons, and that with a roster for Michigan State that this past season, Michigan State underachieved grossly, and they had 21 of 22 starters coming back. They were supposed to be really good, and they weren't. So this is not Michigan State circa 2015. I was saying this while you were absent there for a second. This is not a team, the program that finished in the top 5 to 10 in the nation for most of 6 consecutive seasons. Right. This is basically Indiana or Illinois right now with a coaching turnover. They did lose to Illinois this past season. They are basically, unless they're going to prove me wrong in the next few years, they're going to be in Indiana or Illinois in the Big Ten for the next couple seasons. So this is not the game that I was excited to see when it was scheduled.
Right. I mean, and that happens with all of the games. You know what I mean? Like you schedule them so far in advance and whatnot. But I mean, yeah, it is a little bit different, the setting and scenario at Michigan State, but Miami still has to go up there and win, like regardless.
Yeah, it's not going to be a cakewalk. I wouldn't expect it to be, but they should win. Yeah, we both agree they should win. They should be about an 80 to 85% certainty of winning this game, just looking at talent and where the programs are with Michigan State starting over. James Scott says it all right here. Thumbs up on the stream. I want everyone, again, I make mention of this on a fairly regular basis. Cam donates his time for an hour plus each and every week to us. So please like, comment, share the videos, and subscribe. But in addition to that, the super chat is available to show your appreciation to myself and Cam for providing this content each and every week. And of course, I do my part in regards to the platform, college football across the board. But when it's focused on Miami, it's all about Cam and the knowledge and insight he provides. So I appreciate, and he does as well, if you consider the super chat as well. I am going to ask you, and I rarely do this, to follow me on Twitter. There is a specific reason that I'm asking this week, because I never mention my Twitter, and I don't do anything on Twitter. I post my videos on Twitter, and I don't engage with people on Twitter. Maybe I should. That is certainly one way to grow that platform, but it's not a priority and hasn't been for quite some time. But there is a specific reason why I'm asking people, hey, even if you don't like Twitter, could care less about Twitter, could care less to follow me on Twitter, but you enjoy what we do here, please just help me out by following me on Twitter. And of course, you would like to do that with Underwood Sports and State of the U.
The State of the U.
Randy Noel is stating here in response to one of our videos from last week, Cam, I still believe we get Jimmy Williams. We work behind the scenes. He was committed before.
Jimmy Williams. Oh, James Williams. No,
James
he means
Williams.
yeah.
Jimmy Williams.
Right. No, he means James Williams, the 5-star from American Heritage. True. He was committed as like a high school freshman, sophomore a couple years ago, and decommitted, transferred high schools twice, and then has ended up back at American Heritage again. Heading into his senior year. And I mean, he's the #1 player in Florida. He's the #1 safety in America. He's a top probably 10 player in this country. And I mean, in this class in the country. And yeah, you know, James Williams is the prototype. I mean, he's 6'5", 195, 200 pounds, can get bigger and everything. But I mean, he is everything that you want and more at a safety. I mean, he does things that smaller guys do, but he's also gigantic. I mean, he's 6'5" with arms, you know, wingspan like a pterodactyl, and he can move. You don't see those things often, especially from a safety of this caliber, of this size. And I think we just got Avante Williams, the #2 safety in the 2020 recruiting class. He's 5'11", 185, 190 pounds. James Williams is a half foot bigger. Now, he's not as fast as Avante Williams, but I mean, like, bro, like he's uncommonly large at that position. So of course he put up the top 3. That was Alabama, Georgia, and Clemson. So you know, you can believe that Miami made the top 3, 4 conversation, even though he released a top 3 that did not have Miami. If you want to, you can be not surprised that the top 3 came out and Miami was not included. Whichever way you want to go with it is perfectly fine. Just like this season, I do not believe that James Williams is coming to Miami. Not for a minute, not for a second. I think that you know, He's going to go SEC route, probably. Yeah, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
Joe Jackson is looking for Jeremiah Payton to have a breakout year. I'm going to serve that up to you, as well as identifying what players on both sides of the ball you think that this is a crucial camp here in February and March for.
Oh, that's a good question. Do I have my roster open? I do. Good. Jeremiah Payton has all the talent in the world, so he could be a guy that steps up this year. That's for darn sure. I think outside, and I think that all the wide receivers have a chance just because, you know, you're going to rotate through guys maybe a little bit more because you're playing at tempo, and, you know, whoever's eating is eating. You're going to just leave them out there and like let them ball. So there's that. For the guys who it's like a crucial year for, there are a couple. I will say number one is Mark Pope, wide receiver number 6. He was a 5-star on Rivals. I thought he should have been a composite 5-star recruit, even though he's a composite 4-star coming out of high school. Mark Pope is just a guy that, I mean, he's in his 3rd year. He did not redshirt as a freshman or a sophomore. So he's not yet, you know, he just needs to, it's time to see from him what we saw in high school and, you know, on the 7-on-7 circuit and things like that throughout his high school time. Like, you know, his nickname is Noodles, and there's that viral video that Bud Elliott shot of Ricky Williams. Shout out to The Rule of 99 on Twitter. At a 7-on-7 tournament, he said, "You want to win, put noodles in." And, you know, South Florida Express did that, and, you know, they won, and it was quite easy. But I need to see that guy who said, flip me and Wiggins in the state championship game on 4th in the ball game and run the same play, but with me over there, and I'm going to score a touchdown to win us a state championship, and did it. I need to see that guy in a Miami Hurricanes uniform. I need to see him get loose. I need to see him use his quickness, because he's only 5'11", 175, 180 pounds maybe. But, I mean, he has the tools to be very good. It's time for him to step up. Is there anybody else on offense I want to say other than Mark Pope? No. And I'm going to leave all the true freshmen out of here because they're new. So, like, they're just getting their sea legs. So, like, I don't really count this as a make or break for them. Moving forward, I will say pretty much just everybody on the offensive line. You just got to show and prove something. I don't necessarily think it's crucial for them, as in, you know, show up or get off the boat. But I will say that guys like a Kylian Herbert, maybe Zach Dykstra, Zalante Hillary, like, you guys are 4th-year juniors at this point. Now is the time. You know, if, you know, 2 of those guys are, you know, Herbert was a 4-star. The other 2 were high 3 stars. You get Zach Dykstra from Iowa, away from Iowa and Iowa State and every other Big Ten school. You get Zalante Hillary out of Southwest or Southeast Georgia, same high school as DJ Dallas. You guys have been around. Like, it's your 4th year on campus. You're juniors this year, redshirt juniors. You got to show and prove. So I'll say those guys along the offensive line. On defense, it's pretty much everybody at linebacker. You know, Zach McLeod is a 5th-year senior, and he's been here, but he was, you know, the background singer. He wasn't the star. You know, he was Michelle. He wasn't even Kelly or Beyonce. You know what I mean? Like, he was behind Pinckney and Quarterman. So, I mean, you got to step up. Sam Brooks got to step up. Avery Huff. I mean, I know he's a redshirt freshman, but, like, it's not a make or break, but I want to see him do something. And then on defense, I think that Gilbert Frierson is a guy who, you know, is stepping into that starting striker role after Romeo Finley manned it pretty pitch perfect for the last 2 years. So, you know, without Finley there, and we saw, you know, Frierson, he got turned around in coverage in 2 key times. You know, there was a pass against Florida, you know, where that wasn't necessarily great. And there was another one later in the year where, you know, and again, it could be miscommunication and things like that, but those miscommunications didn't happen when Romeo Finley was on the field. So there is no Romeo Finley safety net anymore. So Frierson, time to step up a little bit more.
20,000 subscribers. If I get a donation of $1 or $2 per month from everybody, you do the math. I quit my job and I'm doing this constantly, and we've got more live streams coming at you than you can imagine. Anyway, Mohammed Hussein, we thank you so much for the super chat contribution. And Mohammed would like Mark and Cam, how do I get you guys to come to a game on me? Go Canes.
Hey, man. I go to games sometimes and everything and whatnot. The thing about it is, and it's something that, like, when I go with my boy Roman, if he invites me every once in a while, I went with Yayo for a while. I haven't talked to her in a while. I wonder how she's doing. But I do this during the games. You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching analytically. I see more than the average fan, and I don't know, like, maybe it's just the way that I'm built. I've been in press boxes before, and career journalists are like, "How did you see that?" I'm just like, I do. Maybe it's because I played a lot of video games. I'm able to scan the field. Maybe it's because I was looking for that thing that we wrote about, or somebody on our site at stateoftheu.com wrote about in a matchup preview or a X's and O preview by Detavio. Maybe it's one of those things, and I was attuned to that. But I'm usually looking at the game, maybe in the way that I do, which could be a little bit differently than other people. But I'm doing this. I'm talking all the way through the game. So, hit me up on Twitter. We can talk about it, is what I'll say, basically. But yeah. And maybe we'll have some watch parties for away games this year. I was supposed to do that last year and didn't get around to it, so we'll see.
Muhammad, I am like thousands of miles away. So I did make my way to the Miami Florida game site because it was a unique week 0 game. And I thought, well, it's my mission here to cover all of college football. So I basically plant myself on the couch and watch as many games as possible on a Saturday afternoon and Saturday night. And you guys know I'm doing live streams and analyzing as many games as I can possibly get to. But that was a unique situation in which it wasn't Colorado State and San Jose State playing in week 0 as we typically get. We had a powerhouse matchup, Florida and Miami. So I thought, you know what? My boy and I are going to head on down to Orlando and take in the event. And we had a great time, and I don't regret it one bit. Met a lot of great people that watch the show on a regular basis, and it was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
A whole lot of fun.
Good.
Lamar Stevens, thank you so much for the contribution to the super chat. I will get that posted to the screen very soon as I make my way to that part. So I'm always 15 or 20 minutes behind because I like to give you guys attention on the screen here.
I will say to the question that was just up there from Patrick, or the statement that he thinks that we have a lot of safeties in our secondary. We do, which is where, the recruiting conversation that we had last time about Mike Rumpf getting a late add to the cornerback class in each of his 5 years here matters. But also, we don't have enough cornerbacks. So, like, that is part of the thing. So, yeah, we have gotten somebody late each of the years that he's been here. Mike Rumpf, that is, a cornerback. But, like, we've missed on other guys, which is why the numbers are lower, which is why if you look at the safety position, there's bigger numbers and better players at the current time. Yes.
So we got our guy, John Bosh. He was on our last show, and he asked probably 18 different questions about two deep just depth chart kind of questions. So let's understand that Avante Williams is either the number 1 or number 2 rated safety in the country. So basically, how good is he? Well, watch our live streams with Cam over the last couple of weeks. He has certainly profiled Avante Williams and his skill set. So I don't know that we necessarily need to go there. He's really, really good.
Right. I'll keep it really short. Avante Williams is uncommonly fast. He is incredibly good. And if you want more, like Mark was saying, go back and look up our last couple of live streams. If you want even more than that, I wrote a recruiting notebook for every single signee on stateoftheu.com. So you can Twitter search it, recruit notebook, Avante Williams. You spelled his name right in your question. Or you can just go to the stateoftheu.com, and I still have the National Signing Day story stream up there on the front page. Click on that. Scroll down. It's kind of towards the top of it because he was the last signee. It is right there, and I think I wrote like 1,400 words of prose in it and included his huddle highlights so you can see all of that together. So, yeah, he's very good. You should be very happy that he's a Miami Hurricane.
Damian Hernandez, in looking at some of the comments that have come to our videos here in the past week or so, believes that in this, is apples and oranges in regards to evaluating recruiting classes in South Florida because they're all loaded, but believes that the 2021 class is even more so top end than it typically is.
2021 top end is pretty supreme. It's there's a lot of really good guys on the top end. You know, if you're talking about Terrence Lewis, who was at Miami Northwestern, he transferred to Chaminade. Whether you're talking about Marcus Tate from University School, who's already committed to Clemson, whether you're talking about James Williams, the safety, who's 7 feet tall with a 9-foot wingspan and everything like that, and other guys at the top of the class, there's a lot of talent. And even as you go a little bit below those top 5 or 6 guys, there's a lot of depth of that high 3-star, would be a 4-star if they lived anywhere else, because you can't make everybody in South Florida 4 stars and up. There's a lot of talent. And this again comes down to the fact that, Miami has to hit on their share of the top end talent that they want locally. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it.
I would be somewhat beating a dead horse if this was in the same conversation, but we've been removed from this conversation for several months. But I'm going to bring it back to I just want to clarify this and get your thoughts, because
please,
again, there are politics that find their way into such rankings, because there have been you and others who have said, for example, if a commit is firm in his commitment, he could be the 10th best player in the nation. Or regarded to that degree. But if he's not selling magazines and subscriptions, then he may become the 30th best player.
Look, I'll put it to you like this. Thad Franklin, who was committed to Miami, decommitted. He's a running back at Chaminade. He ran for 333 yards and 5 touchdowns, both a record in the 3A championship game this past year. Then he just recommitted to Miami 4 days before 247 released their updated rankings. And all of a sudden, he's dropped about 50 places. You don't got to look far. You know what I mean? And it's been consistent. But there's just your latest evidence thereof. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but continue.
And that's basically what I was getting at, is that let's go to some ridiculous extreme. Let's say if God could come down and tell us exactly who the best players are, 1 through 300, and he said the 100 best players in the nation are all playing in South Florida, the recruiting services would find some way to disperse those rankings and make sure that they're scattered across the country.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's one of those things we say, well, you cannot have that many good players, the lack of resources, and then you can't put all the recruiting resources or whatever in the one place. And then it's the right hand washing the left hand too, because, you get credentials, or because recruiting writers aren't technically journalists in that way. So they kind of have credentials. You can get into the schools and to the games and go meet with the coaches and everything like that. And it's you got to have a connection with them to get the information and put that out there. And you have your things that go behind paywalls and whatnot. And that's your proprietary information that you get from the access that you gain to these players. But it's a symbiotic relationship. So if you're not going to rank them in that kind of a way, these guys from Texas or California or whatever, or whomever, wherever, all of a sudden your phone calls don't get answered, or, oh, coach is in a meeting and I'll give him a message, or you show up and you're persona non grata, which I've seen from a couple of schools down in South Florida for a couple of people, because and I've heard it out of the officials from these schools. You took a crap on insert player here, and you didn't know that he was from, whatever, North Sparta State University. I just made up a school. Yeah, that used to be in my NCAA, but you know what I mean? You didn't know that he went here, and then you wrote that article about him, and then so it got back to us at the schoolhouse. Therefore, henceforth, no, you're not. So it's it's an intricate balancing act that they do have to pull. But there are so many guys, and this is where it is not fair, because you only have X amount of numbers because you're working off percentages and, you know, like only a certain percentage of the recruiting class available players are going to be 5 stars and 4 stars, and you can't just give them all. It's just like when the opening regional comes to South Florida as the first or second stop, and they give out 4 tickets to the opening finals. And you're like, yo, you should have 13, 15 or more players from here that I looked at who are going to the opening finals. But you're like, we can only give out 5 or 6 because we got to save the other ones. And maybe after, you know, we're always evaluating and whatnot. So you're going to go other places and see other guys who are not as good. And then you're going to circle back and then give me my second, you know, my hand-me-down invite, instead of giving it to me now on the front end, because then you're going to look like, oh, well, I did too much in South Florida. I gave too many out, or things like that. That trickles down to the recruiting sites as well. And I don't know that there is a fix for it, but it is kind of what it is.
Elvis Freshly, I see what you're doing there. Welcome to the channel. That's the first time I've seen your handle, and thank you for reminding people to like the video. Dante Colon, what do you think the chances are that Manny has become petty in a positive way, meaning will he be ultra motivated for being ranked at number 122 of 130? I hope Manny Diaz is not looking at some coaching rankings from some
He does.
site.
No, they do. They do. I mean, you can't quote things that are written on blogs and you know, you know, other websites of, you know, other outlets and things like that. You cannot quote these recruiting stats all correctly, by the way, and then say, oh, we don't care about what anybody says outside the building. You can't have it both ways. You can't know what we're saying in the blog world. You can't know what they're saying in the recruiting world. And you cannot, I mean, maybe you're talking to, you know, your beat writers a little bit more and everything, but you cannot know what everybody's saying and then say that you're not listening to what or reading what everybody else is putting out there. You cannot have it both ways. So yeah, he has to know. He knows that last year was not good enough. And I don't think it would have taken a ranking of, you know, on The Athletic or wherever to put him as 120th or 122nd out of 130 Division I head coaches. I don't think it would take that for him to want to do better. He lost those games. He was there for it. And then he got chewed out, and he had to sit there and answer those questions like he should have for being the coach on whose watch we lost to FIU for the first time ever and lost to Duke in consecutive years for the first time ever. He had to own that. And I mean, yeah, was it better that he beat Florida State? Yes. You still lost to Florida. It was a tough game. Things didn't necessarily go your way. Gave up 10 sacks. Could have won that game, but you gave it away. That's tough. Okay. But I mean, I don't want to be moral victory guy, but that was the most competitive loss of the year. You know what I mean? I mean, North Carolina, you gave that up easy. Georgia Tech, that was atrocious. But he had to sit there and answer all those questions. I don't think it took a ranking after the year for him to know, hey, things got to go the other way. Again, the report that Dane Enos was leaving came out before the bowl game, like the day of the bowl game, hours before. So that means that he already knew and had communicated that. Yeah, he's going to sit there and say, well, we'll evaluate everything after the game and no decision's been made, blah, 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 blah. Everybody knows that the decision had been made the day of. It was probably like a week or maybe 2, you know? There were people who were whispering that. There were people who were posting that on message boards. I don't necessarily believe everybody who posts on a message board. However, if you have multiple people in multiple places saying the same thing, if there's that much smoke, there has to be some fire. So yeah, he should be petty because you got to win. You know what I mean? You gotta want to be better. You have to evaluate the process if the result is not proper. The results were not proper, and you can tell that he already evaluated the process. Why? Because he got rid of the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. You know, like you got to do different. You got to be different to get different. You have to look at something and then say, you got to play the way that he talked early in the year in the locker room. You got to get your team to play like that. And that is the challenge of coaching and teaching. You know, there were some years when I was a choir director and my choir was not the most talented, but golly, we sang our asses off. And there were other years when we were really talented and we sang our asses off. And there were other years when we were really talented and they didn't give a shit and we didn't do anything well. So then they're like, oh, well, we didn't make it to states this year. We didn't do whatever and blah, blah, blah. Because y'all didn't care, but I'm giving everything from me. But then I got to look back at myself and say, if I'm not motivating them the right way, if I'm not instructing, teaching everything the right way, getting them to do the things that they can do the best, then it's going to reflect poorly on me because our performance is not going to be proper. That's where Manny Diaz is right now. He knows. He's been around football. Like, and I know that everyone will say, oh, he started at ESPN as a video intern and he worked. I don't care. He's been around football for so long and he's done this even as a defensive coordinator. Look, he got fired at Texas. He was here. He was there. He did all these position coach things. You think that he doesn't know that what happened last year was good enough? So I don't care if you're petty. I don't care if you are pious like Mark Richt. All I care about is the job gets done. And to me, it seems like Manny Diaz is trying to make moves to get that job to be done.
And let's understand that these are rankings that are released by College Football News. I did a video in response to those rankings at this point last year. And what needed to be clarified for me after I read the fine print, because I was thinking, how is this guy the 10th best coach in the country, and last year he was the 92nd best coach in the country, or vice versa? Well, the distinction made, and I think it's a fair ranking, is that they are ranking, not saying Dino Babers, for example, they rated him extremely high after that 10-3 season. Then he took a tumble after 5-7 and all those horrible losses, because it's based on just the job performance for that particular season. So they're not saying this guy suddenly got dumb. They're basically just saying, based on the evaluation of the talent, how difficult the schedule was, if there were any other factors involved, such as egregious injuries or anything else, that we're evaluating the performance of that coach. And if you look at Miami's talent, the schedule, and a 6-7 finish, 122 is pretty fair.
Absolutely. And again, you know, you had multiple statistics on the offensive side of the ball that were ranked 120th, 122nd, or dead last in the country, which is 130 out of 130. Yeah, for the job that was done in 2019, it is entirely fair that Manny Diaz was ranked as 122nd out of 130 head coaches at the FBS level. And it needs to get better, or we're going to have another new coach.
Lamar Stevens, we thank you so much for another contribution to the Super Chat. Lamar, thank you so much for that. Thanks,
Lamar. I appreciate you.
Yep. And to dovetail right off of what you just tweeted about the incompetency of the offense, Mohammed is asking where we would expect the offense to be ranked overall this coming season.
I mean, I don't know, really. If you're looking something comparable to what was done elsewhere. I mean, look, again, even a 50% improvement from 122nd or whatever it was to 61st is huge. You know, if you cut the ranking in half, or, you know, the number, whatever, you know what I mean. But that's huge. You know, if you're talking top 40, like like a 70% improvement on ranking, that's really great. But we have to see what happens on the field. You know, I do expect there to be more yards. I do expect there to be more points. And to put up yards and points, I think that the offense would be ranked highly. But again, yeah, you know, you got to have, you have to have small improvement before you can have a large improvement. And, you know, there are some spots where there can be small or large improvement coming. So we'll see. I'm not really sure, but I would hope that, you know, if I'm putting a range on it, I want to say top 65 or better would be, I mean, not necessarily the best or my utopian view of the offense, but coming from where we were and headed on the path to where I think that we can get, I would say top 65 would be acceptable.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments and questions to the live chat. To Mohammed Hussein and Lamar Stevens, again, a couple of contributions from both of you on the Super Chat. So thank you so much. Bulldogs Mafia Florida sucks. So that's one thing Georgia and Miami fans can agree on.
Yes, sir.
So there's the pecking order, according to Elvis, of the quarterbacks. Tate Martell, do we expect him to stick around?
Yep. For right now. I mean, he's still here. You know, see, he's putting up pictures, his motivational pictures and things like from the season in his uniform. Hey, you know, we're getting to work. We're doing this. Da, da, da. Cool, bro. You know, if you like it, I love it for you. So yeah, but the pecking order, in case you didn't see that, or if you're listening to this later, was De'Aaron King number 1, N'Kosi Perry number 2, Tyler Van Dyke number 3, and Tate Martell number 4 in the estimation of Elvis Presley. I mean, you're really everybody's playing for second place now. The starter is going to be De'Aaron King unless he gets injured. God willing that doesn't happen. And then everybody else is trying to see who's going to be the next guy in. But you didn't bring in a De'Aaron King to have him rest, to have him sit on the bench and hold a clipboard, wear a off-color, a red hat, and signal in plays. You didn't bring him here for that. So I've said it before. I said it again. I'm saying it again. It's going to be De'Aaron King, and then everybody else can kind of fall in line afterwards.
We're being asked who's going to start at wide receiver, and I'll also add on to that question. Does it matter who really starts at wide receiver? Meaning you've got 3 and 4 out there at a time.
Right. Now, I mean, it could, because if you have guys who aren't able to do what we need them to do, then yes. I think that the one given is Brevin Jordan at tight end, and who's going to miss spring because he's dealing with it or recovering from an injury. There's like 9 or 10 guys who are missing spring, or at least part of spring, and that's okay. I would rather have them out there and everything, but if you got to miss time, I'd rather it be now than later. Yeah, so whoever starts at wide receiver, I think that's open for debate and discussion based upon their performance in spring. If I'm looking into my crystal ball a little bit in the future, I'll say Mark Pope. I'll say D. Wiggins, just because he's a size speed kind of combination guy, and he has a size that's not common in our wide receiver room right now. And then I don't know. I mean, we need some other size. We need speed. It could go either. It could go any way. I mean, it really could. I think that Mike Harley is going to be a rotation guy for us this year, whether he starts or not, just as a senior on this team. And there is talent in the room. There's the ability to rotate through a few guys, But yeah, I mean, it's going to really come down to whoever gets the playbook down and understands what their jobs are supposed to be. Because you're going to have interchangeable parts and things like that, and guys who can do different things. And Rhett Lashley, he's saying, like, look, when he was at SMU, we had guys running 4.6s, 4.65, 4.7, but they're still butt naked wide open, though. In those 4 seconds that play, they're playing as fast as they can, and they're getting wide open. But now you come to Miami where you got guys running 4.5 and under, 4.4 and under at receiver. It's a different kind of beast, but they still got to be able to execute the plays. So I think that's a position, just because, like Mark was saying, you have so many different guys on the field, because you're going to go 3 and 4 wide more often than not, where there's more room for variation on who starts or plays than most other positions on the team. So we'll see about that one. Mark froze. Or did I freeze? I don't know. Well, hanging out. I got a UM shirt on. It's an old one with a Nike swoosh, but still a great design. And I take care of my stuff. So that's nice. Oh, and I don't even have the super chat, so I can't even see what else.
There we go.
There we go.
I froze. You froze. That was obviously on me. If both of us freeze, that's all me. So, yeah. So I don't know where we were on all that.
No, I had honestly just finished up that question, and then I saw that you were frozen, so I was filibustering for a second.
I went into hibernation.
Well, I mean, you froze, so it happened, I guess, yeah.
All right. What else do we have on here? You guys leave a lot of comments and questions, but I'm not coming across anything that really amounts to a whole lot here.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun. My early top 20. Okay, that's
Top
good
10.
to know.
Yeah. Okay. Georgia at number 1. Let me know how that works out for you.
Utah was up there.
Yeah, I mean, defense is tough for them. So
You think that's partly because
Clemson shouldn't have beaten them, but they did.
What do we have here from JT Sounds? Cam, do you think we can land? I'm going to let you take that name.
No, it is what it looks like. Keith Brown.
Keith Brown. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You think JT Sounds or thinks that he is Tutu Atwell 2.0. I do not think that. Excuse me. Oh, I got my nose. Jesus.
Take it away. What am I going to talk? I'm going to let you know what's coming up, which means we got Florida Gators talk. Yes, everybody boo, but join us. You can boo all you want, but join us, please, for the live conversation we've got coming up with David Waters from Gators Breakdown and also Jackie Franchuli from Gators Territory on Rivals. So we've got some brilliant Florida Gators talk coming up here at 8 o'clock Eastern time.
Boo to whatever that was. I think it said heard Florida Gators talk. Anyway,
Gators
sorry about that.
At 8.
Boo. Anyways, back to the question at hand. Keith Brown is a player that Miami can land. He was at Gulliver Prep for a couple of years. He transferred to Miami Central. He's a slash kind of athlete. He plays slot receiver, play outside. He's played some running back, kick returner, things like that. He is an explosive player. If you watch up or look him up on Twitter, he does have some highlights, again, from games and camps and 7-on-7s. And when it's in multiple engagements, then you start to get the lay of the land. If a kid just has one highlight from a 7-on-7, don't trust it. But Keith Brown has these highlights from every kind of time that he steps on the field. So you'll see him jumping over guys and mossing them. Give me the ball. Yep. Okay, cool. Things like that. This is a kid who can play. Can Miami land him? Absolutely. And he's one of the myriad players that I was talking about in that high 3-star to 4-star range. He's a 4-star in the local area. Again, he plays at Miami Central, a traditional powerhouse that's finally, broken through and won some state championships after going their entire existence until 2000 and whenever, 10 or 11 without having won one. But yeah, he's a very talented player. I don't think that he's Tutu Atwell 2.0 because Tutu Atwell is 3 inches shorter and he played quarterback. And during the recruiting process, tried to be like Lamar Jackson, saying, no, I'm going to play exclusively quarterback. Tutu Atwell, you see how fast he is. You saw that 80-yard touchdown that he had against Miami. Bro, you're 5'7". You're not playing quarterback at this level. You're just not. And that can be highest, that can be a leader. That can be whatever ist you want to call. I mean, not racist because I'm black and I wasn't saying it because of that. You know what I mean? But if you say that he's too short and we just don't have players of that size and it's, heightist, fine. But that was what that was. And he finally came around to the point of, okay, I'll do the slot receiver thing. And you see that he's a dynamic player at that. It's not necessarily that with Keith Brown. It's not that he's playing out of position at the high school level. And again, Tutu Atwell was a damn good high school quarterback. I would have taken him on any high school team in America. That kid could play high school quarterback to an elite level. He just couldn't play at a college or the pro level. Keith Brown is playing the position he's going to play, so I think it's more about actually getting him in the class if Miami wants him than that misfit or disconnect on future utilization like there was with Tutu Atwell.
We've got 2 more recruiting questions that I would like to hit on before we let Cam go and we shut things down. We've got JT Sounds. Where does Miami stand with the Miami Palmetto cornerbacks and where they stand with Jacory Brooks?
The Miami Palmetto cornerbacks are Corey Collier Jr., whose father played at Florida State, and Jason Marshall. Both of them are 6'2", 6'3". Marshall is a little bit more muscular at this point than is Collier. Collier is the one with the long dreads because Marshall has a close cropped kind of blowout high top looking thing. So if you're looking at him, you're like, oh, well, I see a Palmetto. You don't see the hair coming out the helmet. That one's Marshall. The one with the dreads all down, that's Collier. Collier, probably not coming here. Florida State. Jason Marshall just released top 5 that had all the usual suspects in the South, that being LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, and Florida, I believe, in his top 5, and no Miami. Although Jason Marshall has been to Miami for a junior day and he's coming back for another one. So hopefully Miami can punch their way up out of the outside group into the top 5 and make a move for him. I would say that the chances are probably stronger with Marshall than with Collier, though at this time it does not look great for either, but you still got time to make moves and go forward. So, and then I wouldn't turn down Collier if he wants to come over and visit campus or practice or anything like that as well. So yeah, that's kind of where that is with Jacory Brooks. Jacory Brooks is just a beast. He's 6'3", he's 190 pounds, wide receiver out of Booker T. Washington. He's been that dude since he was in 7th or 8th grade. I would like to say that he's going to come here, but I don't believe it. You know, I just think that he's going to be the latest receiver from down here who goes elsewhere. And whether that's any of the, insert here schools, that could be like Marcus Rosemy going to Georgia. That could be like, he's different than like a Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper going to Alabama, because those guys they were faster. They're more sudden athletes than Jacory Brooks. He's more of a size guy, even though he has good speed. They're different fast than him. But I mean, he could go there. He could go to Clemson. He could any of those places. So, at this point with him, I fully expect it that he goes elsewhere. I don't, and I mean, hey, I would love it if the scenario proved me wrong. But that's that about that of those 3 guys.
And then from Kane Forever, if anything, Cam, on the 5'11", 160-pound Malik Curtis out of Fort Myers.
Nope, haven't seen it. I'll look make a note of the name and look him up later. I know that the speed guys that we were looking at, like a Christian Leary out of Orlando Edgewater. He's a guy who released a top 11 or 10, and Miami wasn't in it, but hopefully, again, Miami can make moves there. There's another couple of local guys, maybe even a Yule Keith Brown, like was just previously asked about. But the Malik Curtis kid is not a kid that I'm that familiar with, so I will have to do a little bit more research and get back to you on that one.
All right, folks, follow me on Twitter. We got Florida Gators Live coming up in just a few minutes, and lock it in on State of the U. Cam, thank you so much as always. I can never thank you enough. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. So, just real quick on all our social, we're at the State of the U. So that's Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. My personal Twitter is at Underwood Sports. The website is stateoftheu.com. Come over and fan with us. We have really great stuff all the time, including a new quarterback offer profile that I believe just got finished because my boy Roman is on a cruise ship, and he did that right before he left. And I will look at that and approve that probably for tomorrow.